Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today it's To Back or Not to Back, where we're going to be diving into a bunch of crowdfunding campaigns, going through a whole bunch, well, not actually a whole bunch, we have like maybe 5 or 6 campaigns today, once you take into account the board game adjacent category. But as usual, before we dive into all the crowdfunding campaigns, links, timestamps, all that stuff down below, let's start off with Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is the segment where we go ahead and take a look at a currently available game, a game that has reviews available. You can get it now, you don't have to wait, you don't have to wonder, you don't have to, rely on 2 or 3 videos about the game. You can check the entire Board Game Geek, whatever, and that today is going to be Alma Mater. This is currently on sale over on Game Nerds. Hopefully it's still on sale by the time you click on this link. Maybe, I don't know. But at $27 for this game, I'd say it's a fantastic game for a fantastic price, but I haven't actually played it yet. I just know it's semi-based on Coinbro, which is why I have Alma Mater. I need to play it. I'm behind on a bunch of my Euros. Euros are, to me, one of the harder games to table, because I usually find myself just playing the ones I already know and love. I have Alma Mater. I want to play it, but if you are on the fence, if you want to try this out, the ratings are pretty good on the game, and at $27, it's basically a steal, and as usual, Cult of the Now, available now, you don't have to wait, you don't have to do all that stuff, and with that, let's go ahead and dive into the crowdfunding campaigns. Now, before we do, it's been a while since I mentioned this, so I should start mentioning this more often, but over on Patreon, we have a series called Unfair and Unbalanced. Unfair and Unbalanced is a series that's about 5 minutes long for the video. It goes up every single Monday, along with a To Back or Not to Back, and it's basically where I try to convince you not to back every single game in this video. The point of it is not to specifically be mean towards games in and of themselves, but the point is counter FOMO. The point is it's not fair, it's not balanced, it's me trying to aggressively find reasons not to back every single thing I possibly can. That's a series over on Patreon if you want to check that out. Link to my Patreon down below as always, and appreciated. And with that, let's go ahead and start us off with the Clear series. This is the board game adjacent category. We have 3 of these campaigns today. We have the Clear series, Board Game Essentials, Infinite Possibilities, 390 backers, $47,000 raised. The Clear series is a bunch of basically token holders, card holders, things like that, ideally showing you cards and tokens without any degree of warping or not being able to read the text, whether it's Nemesis, Massive Darkness, Catan, whatever your game system is. They have a great video that shows you kind of different table setups, how it can look, how it can present your game, and you can go ahead and get a bunch of options from as low as $45, or I shouldn't say as low because everything's comparable, from $45 up to $125. And I'm sure you can buy even more if you want, but that's going to give you a bunch of different combinations of different token holders and things you can get, and everything stacks. All the things stack. They stack to the left, they stack to the height, they stack all the different ways to make your table space as ideally as clear as possible. See what we did there over there? This is not a sanction of the product. I haven't actually tried this out or seen it or anything else past what we see on the page, but if this is your jam, this is another opportunity to take out a look at another different token holder type situation. Shelfside has a comparison video. You can take a look at that, so you can take a look at his video, see anything else, as far as if he compares to other token holders as well. But that's the Clear series, basically various token holders and components. Fun fact, we'll actually have, we have One Sharp Joe, who I've in general been a big fan of and talked about his products. I'll actually be showcasing some One Sharp Joe token holders that are very, very similar to, the Wormwood token. Different video, different time, let's talk about it in the future. We'll come back to that. Moving on, we have NAVKAKRI, Ancient Game meets Tech. This is basically Nine Men's Morris meets Tech. That's what this is. It's very board game adjacent. It's definitely a board game. I've played Nine Men's Morris. It's been a long time, but I've played the game. Very tactical game in the same vein as chess, checkers, Go, all that kind of situation. This is a tactical game that's been played for, well, a long time. Ancient game. That's the whole ancient game part. And now it's meeting technology. This is a $100 or $200 version of the game. Let's see how much it is. It was $163 for this game, which is basically the technology behind, well, not behind, the technology over here, and then Nine Men's Morris on top of it. So the game system can recognize your pawns, recognize who's winning, show you moves, all of that. Very specific product, very niche product as far as over here. I assume most of you watching this will not be getting it, but there might be one of you out there who particularly likes this kind of jam, and so I want to show it to you because it's definitely board game. It's not board game adjacent, but it's board game adjacent considering the normal board game category we tend to talk about on the show. That's this. Not really heavily going to go into it. Watch the video if you want to get an idea of it. Within a minute you'll see whether it's your jam or not. This is not for you unless you already know Nine Men's Morris, probably, or whether this kind of thing is something you already... listen, you'll know if you want this. I don't need to try to convince you. Either way, that's not NAVKAKRI. And then lastly, we have the 2024 board game Mosaic calendar. This is from Katya Howitson, who puts out a board game calendar every single year. I say every single year. I think this is the 3rd year, if I'm not mistaken. But it's the board game Mosaic calendar. 475 backers, $11,000 raised, 18 days to go. This is basically a bunch of various art creation, board game art creations, put into various calendars. She takes this, she comes up with the concept, she then assembles the actual pieces using various tokens. Part of the fun of it, as somebody who looks at these, is trying to recognize as many different games as you can within the pieces with the constructs that she creates. And then she takes a photo of it, cleans it up a bit, puts it into a calendar image, and boom, there you go. You now have a new Mosaic style thing but made from your favorite board game pieces. She has a whole like illustration over here. She has publishers sending her literal containers full of game tokens so she can have all these colors at her disposal to mess with whatever new shapes or designs she wants. As you recognize, hey look, Castle of Burgundy. Castle of Burgundy's over here. That kind of situation. You get to see your favorite games, logos from your favorite companies, that kind of situation. That's going to be the board game Mosaic calendar. It's going to run you, I believe, is $18, 24 Canadian, $18 for the calendar, or you can buy a set of 2 and save some money, as well as some extras if you want any of that. That's going to be the board game Mosaic calendar from Katya Howitson. From there, we move on to the actual campaign, starting off with Astronauts Eternity. This is one I didn't even know was coming. 1,300 backers, $97,000 raised. This is a follow-up, an expansion, not a follow-up, an expansion to the original Astronauts, which is in and of itself a version, I don't even know what you want to call it, a re-implementation of Aeon's End. This Astronauts has the same core concept of Aeon's End. It has differences that make it, well, different, but it has the same core concept, the same bones in that puzzle, while being different in a way that might make it a better game for you or a worse game for you. That's going to be for you to decide. But in this game, this in particular is the expansion to Astronauts, which already it's been starting to arrive or has already arrived. Astronauts is basically arriving to backers and all that. They now have the expansion over here, along with some upgrades. They have some extra like double layered boards and things that people always wanted. And then from there we also have the general pledge over here is going to be the $55 pledge, which is going to give you Astronauts Eternity, the Mystery of Solaris, the Savage Skies, and then of course the exclusive Kickstarter pack and all of that. We also have the $85 bundle that will also give you the accessory pack and the playmat. We're going to go through all of that very shortly. The general idea of Astronauts is a cooperative or solo game, which you are basically building out a deck from a random market of cards. I believe random market of cards. You're building out a deck to take down various baddies, and then they're going to have like a home world that you're dealing with as well, and you're trying to be mindful of your stats and how many spells you can cast effectively, spells or tools, whatever you want to call them, weapons you can cast, weapons you can hold on to, all of that. I'm mixing up the 2 systems. Aeon's End is about spell casting, Astronauts is about weapons. Either way, deck building game, take down baddies, and increasing levels of difficulty in this game, and this expansion is going to be introducing you a few new things. We're gonna need a bigger ship over here. That's a line I've heard before. We're gonna have a bunch of things. Let me see if I can find the actual page over here. New heroes, new challenges. That's not what I'm looking for over here. Where's the actual content? We do have new heroes. We do have new challenges. We have new mechanics and things, but I'm trying to find the actual content over here. Where is it? Here we go. All you need to hear, $55 pledge. Here we go. So you're going to have upgraded player mats over here with highly requested upgraded thicker player boards for both Astronauts and Eternity in this game over here. So you're going to have these various extra monsters you're fighting off against. I don't know if they're called monsters or bosses, whatever they are. You're going to be fighting off against more of those. You're going to have gameplay changes as well. So one of the things that's going to have is these kind of power-up aspects. The idea that you go on a sequence of like 4 different quests in a row, and then you have different power-ups you earn after each quest that will give you these moves you can take together with your teammates. So it feels more like a cooperative, bunch of heroes working together. Although not technically speaking heroes, but you know what I'm talking about. The good guys, the knights they're called, the Astro Knights. We have the expansion over here, the Mystery of Solaris, which is going to introduce 2 knight mats, so you can get some new knights over, 2 new knights in play. Additionally, the new boss mat as well, so the Shade Sculpt over here. So all that new content, new cards, new characters, new villains, all those things. And then the Savage Skies, which is going to be the daily Kickstarter extras that are all going to be included in this little pack over here. For $85, you're also going to get the component pack as well as the playmat if you want those, and you can of course get things separately if you want to get the if you want to put together your own package. They have additionally they have pledges for everything all the way up to getting the original Astronauts for $140 in case you missed out on the original campaign. You can go ahead and get that here as well. So a bunch of ways to spend money, anything from $55 to $140 or more if you want to get a bunch of Astronauts content. You could check out reviews for the game already, see if it is or isn't a game for you. Overall, I enjoyed this one. I'm definitely interested in this one. I have to decide whether to double down on the system or not. Like, I like Astronauts. The question is, how much do I like Astronauts and will I table it? But I enjoy it, and the idea of the power-ups does seem like something, apparently that's a system that has been in some way done in Aeon's End, and it does sound compelling, and I do want more of that. we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I'm compelled. It was a fun game. It was a good game, and definitely a challenge as you faced off against harder bosses in the game experience. Past that, there's going to be various Kickstarter extras. Some of them are going to be promos that you can get your hands on as general promotional material anywhere, and others will be available either only in this Kickstarter campaign or alternatively at conventions and limited sales and all that stuff. From there we have over here, we have the various extras you can see, and they're all marked accordingly. This is a Kickstarter exclusive card. We have promo cards. You can see all the things unlocked. We're only on day 4 over here, so still new content, and it's worth noting I'm filming this a day or 2 in advance, so by the time you see this, you're probably on day like 7 or 6 or something like that. But that is basically Astronauts, and of course shipping for all of that. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold this value? It's too soon to really know if it will hold this value, although I'm not certain it will. If you look at the sales for Astronauts on the aftermarket, because it's so new, there's not that much to go by. There's only one sale I found, and that one was below the amount paid, but that could go, again, one copy is not a, does not a trend make. So I'm not confident it's one that you'll get your money back, but I'm also not confident it's one that you won't. But I will say that there are extras here that if you do want those extras without hunting them down, then the safest way to get your hands in the game and not have to worry about chasing things down is going to be the crowdfunding campaign. But if you're not in a rush and you don't mind saving money and you don't mind waiting or not getting every little last thing, then yes, you will probably save money by waiting to get this one later down the road and or possibly trying to pick up a used copy. Moving on, we have over on GameFound, we have the Hunters A.D. 1492 by Aficionia Monstrum. And this is an interesting campaign, primarily because I was kind of expecting just this is called the Hunters A.D. 1492. This same company has a game called the Hunters A.D. 2114. Which to me was surprising because I kind of expected this to be just a medieval re-theme of that game, and while it definitely has some of the same building blocks as that game, from what I can see over here, there's large differences at play, which is good news for me because I have a first impressions video coming out of the Hunters A.D. 2114 later this week or at some point, and that first impressions video is overall positive, but it's not one that ultimately I feel the need to keep. There's pros, there's cons, I don't feel the need to keep the original game, and yet I do find myself interested in 1492 because of how different it actually does look. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be responsible, maybe not, I don't know yet. But what I do know is we have 1,000 backers, 149,000 euro raised so far, 15 days to go, and the Hunters A.D. 1492 is a campaign game. It's a campaign game that they are saying it should take roughly 30 hours to go through, although it will vary by group, of course, and you know what kind of decision making how much decision making, how much side quests, all these various things. But expect a roughly 30-hour game that is playable for 1 to 4 players. Although I will say the original Hunters is rated best as a 1-player game, and personally I would suggest it as a 1 or 2-player game, not more. I do not know if that carries over to Hunters 1492, so take that with a grain of salt. But I would say if you're looking at this as a 3 to 4 player game, do your research because it may not thrive at those player counts. It might, I don't know. This is where the balance of comparing it to a system that is clearly based off of, while also being very different, there's dangers in that comparison. But over here, overall, the art's fantastic. The general game is going to involve you wandering around a map and exploring various locations and having various events pop up, both events that are tied to the locations you're going to, but as well as events that will happen just as you travel around the board. Meanwhile, you have your characters, and you're going through various quests and encounters along the way, both side quests and your main journeys. Each of them are going to involve setting up your characters and dealing with a bunch of encounters on a landscape against the various monsters, all while trying to manage the monster's AI and how it's going to progressively chase you down, while killing the monsters, gaining experience, leveling up your characters, gathering more gear, upgrading said gear, lots of fun things as far as the upgrades, the systems, the story, the exploration. Those high-level similarities are definitely present in the Hunters A.D. 2114, but there does seem to be a decent amount of changes to the way characters are structured. Even the way the map is structured as an actual map as opposed to just a sequence of cards does seem vastly more, what's the word I'm looking for? Pulls you in more. It's more immersive. Immersive is the one I'm looking for. So lots of small changes, and of course, thematically, I just prefer medieval kind of campaign aspects to a futuristic robot apocalypse situation. But overall, that's the Hunters A.D. 1492. Pledge levels are going to come in at the Hunter Award for 117 euro for the game over here, pledged 984 times. And then additionally, you'll have the hero set, which these are 2 extra heroes. My own personal advice on this, and take it for what you want, is this 25 euro hero pack. Make no mistake, if I get this game, I will probably get the hero pack, but I will say you probably don't need the hero pack. Unless you're diving into this campaign a second time after playing 30 hours in the game, or unless you specifically want these 2 characters, why do you need them? You're going to be already picking a certain number of characters, and you won't be necessarily switching up characters throughout the game as you play, so I would say unless you plan on replaying the game or specifically want these characters, there's probably not that much incentive to get these 2 additional heroes. But I also like getting everything, so I don't know if I'd follow my own advice there. We also have metal coins for 22 euros, set of new dice for 5 euros, so more dice in the game. A set of additional monsters, from what I can see, these are the same monsters included in the game, so you shouldn't need these unless you want more miniatures. And then also 5 euro for the map as well. That's going to be what you have as far as the actual game, the add-ons, and then we have stretch goals. Stretch goals already unlocked a new heroes, some new monster cards, new events and things, town and road cards, stuff like that, and more will be unlocked as the campaign progresses. But that is the Hunters A.D. 1492. Again, I'll have the first impressions of 2114 out before this campaign ends, but I would say take it with a heavy grain of salt because I have pros and I have cons, but this is clearly based on the same system while being totally different, so take that as you will. But either way, and also overall the game is generally well rated. But that's going to be the Hunters 1492 over on GameFound. You can check that out. And with that, we're going to go out. And I will say, they say it's going to be crowdfunding limited, so not really available in retail. So if you want the game, your options are crowdfunding or the secondhand market. Moving on, we have Clank Legacy. Clank Legacy from Direwolf, $423,000 raised, 4,400 backers, 20 days to go, and this is the sequel to Clank. The sequel to Clank, which was not on Kickstarter, and by the way, I love this. I love the transparency, the honesty, and the directness, and the accuracy. The original Clank was not on Kickstarter, and they said, why did we choose Kickstarter over here? Kickstarter helps players discover new games and helps creators build relationships with their fans. Those both seem like good things to us. I am a fan of that general sentence. I'm a fan of the transparency. I'm a fan of the accuracy. It's one of those things that does bother people, and I understand why it does. It doesn't bother everyone, but it bothers some people that, hey, crowdfunding should be when you need the money. When you need the money to make the product, that's what crowdfunding is for. That's one of the purposes of crowdfunding, but it also is a good way to market your game. It's a good way to expose your game to where people are looking for new things. It is a good way to build relationships with their consumers for better and for worse. And I say for better and for worse because it is both of those things. It lowers the barrier between a company and the consumers in such a way that can add a lot of value and dynamic and bring a personality to a company and to a game and all of that stuff. But it also does mean that there's more of a, hey, what's going on? Why doesn't this work out? All these kind of direct situations which aren't really present if you just have that distance there. So for better and for worse, it bridges the gap between the consumer and the company. And again, I do believe in that marketing aspect. And for those saying that, who sit there and say, well, it hurts small creators, that's just factually speaking just not true. Larger creators bring people to crowdfunding. Larger creators and the hype that their games bring attract more audiences. When you have Call of Duty on crowdfunding, more people flock to crowdfunding and smaller campaigns benefit as a result. There are certainly times where a small campaign could be washed out in the flood and furor of larger campaigns, but as a whole, large companies, established companies that don't need crowdfunding, using crowdfunding, have brought more people, more audiences, and overall more funding to the crowdfunding platform. This is really a conversation for an entirely different dedicated video, but it's one of those common misconceptions when people are upset about large companies using the platform. If you get rid of them, you're going to hurt the small companies just as much, if not more. No, not just as much, if not more. More. You'll hurt the small companies more. Either way, sorry for that random tangent over there. 4,400 backers, $424,000. This is Clank Legacy 2, and yes, there are some extras for getting this on the campaign. There's a few options over here. You have $99 for the initial pledge over here for the simple Clank Legacy 2, $99, MSRP of $125. Although take that MSRP with a grain of salt. In general, you can get Clank Legacy for $100, which means they're charging you $100 plus shipping on a game that you can buy for $100, often with free shipping. So they're already charging you more. Now the question is why? Why should you back this? FOMO, supporting the creator, all good reasons I guess, but not really, but there are some other reasons on the table. First of all, is if you want the original Clank Legacy, you'll get it for $179 for both, which means you're getting a discount. Once you're buying both, the price point of buying both is going to be cheaper or better than buying just one, even once you factor in shipping. So if you want the original Clank Legacy and your options are paying $100 for it, or just paying $180 plus shipping, which would be like around $185 or so, depending on where you are exactly, then that's already a reason to go ahead and jump on this campaign, although granted, you're basically saving $5 and giving your money up a year in advance, although there are apparently options to potentially get Clank Legacy now. Factor in the price differentials and all that, because you may have to pay shipping twice. Just factor it in as far as buying it literally online if you wanted to. But then obviously there's a reason of supporting the creator, giving more money directly to the creator. There is the aspect, especially with Clank Legacy 2, there is the aspect of getting it now, or not now, but as soon as possible, as opposed to getting it, I don't know, 5 months after the crowdfunding lands. Not a guarantee you're getting it earlier. It does vary, but generally you'll get things earlier. And then lastly, they actually are giving you extras as well. They are giving you things in this campaign. If you scroll through the stretch goals, and Clank Legacy, I probably should do a small overview of the actual game. Clank Legacy is based on the popular Clank system. This is a deck building adventure that it takes place across, well, the original one takes place across 10 scenarios you're going to be going through, and in each scenario you're going to be modifying the map. You're going to be adding stickers to the locations. You're going to be adding cards to the game. You're going to be changing up rules and goals and different things, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil your experience, but effectively is constantly changing the game state as a legacy game is wont to do, theoretically giving you a fully playable game by the time you're done, but in most cases people don't generally play the legacy games when they're done, even when they're able to. I imagine that will hold true as well over here. But then past that, The general idea is it's Clank. You are rushing into the dungeon, you are trying to go ahead and extract things from the dungeon, you're trying to be the first one out as far as the game goes, and then that's basically it. And then it's Legacy. That's what the Clank Legacy system is. Now, Clank Legacy 2 does not require that you've played Clank Legacy 1. It does not require that in any way. I don't want to get too much into some of the differences because I don't know what's public on some of the differences or not, and I don't want to spoil things that are coming, so I may not be saying some things that are actually already known, but there's some differences to this. No major differences. Well, I shouldn't say that either. There are some differences between Clank Legacy 2 and 1 as far as even just gameplay mechanics, but the core idea is the same. It's the Clank system, it's the Clank framework, but with a cooperative twist on top of it, and as far as the different story in terms of you don't need to have played the original one, so all those things are going on, but that's Clank Legacy. And then the stretch goals over here. Stretch goals are going to be, we have some things unlocked already, and we have daily reveals and all these things that will be revealing over here, but we have over here, we have the cooperative scenarios, we have the scratch-off cards. They're going to have various cards that are scratched off, which I believe is different from the original game. I don't believe they have the scratch-off system, like the one that Pandemic Legacy and many other Legacy games have had. And then we have stretch goals. We have 22. We have all these things, you know, new coins being added. We have more cards, more promos, different promo packs. All these things you can go through this, and of course they'll be continuing to add to it as the campaign continues to grow. So there are extra things you're getting. You have to decide if those small extras are worth the difference to you, but the difference is not that significant. So it kind of, you have to make a decision for yourself as far as how much you care about these things. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? We've kind of been talking about that throughout this segment. And for the most part, if you want both of the games, I almost recommend getting it off the bat, assuming you're willing to wait and combine shipping. If you're not willing to wait, it changes the conversation, and then you just have to decide how much you care about these additional promos versus just getting it at retail. You're not paying that much extra, and you are likely getting it sooner, and you are getting some extras, so it seems like a decent reason to go ahead and get the game, especially if you want to support the creator, lock your thing in, and just generally guarantee things. But also, if you don't want to spend $100 today that you can spend in a year instead, that changes the entire conversation. Moving on to Botany. Botany over here, the adventure of flowers. Botany, flower hunting in the Victorian era, 3,000 backers, $200,000 raised. This campaign is doing tremendously well, at least so far. This reminds me of Dog Park in terms of the general how well a campaign is doing, with a very just targeted theme, targeting something and doing it very well as far as general presentation. But over here, and we'll talk about Dog Park again later in this video. But either way, we have over here, we have Botany, which is going to be a game as you wander across the board. You can watch the video. The video gives you a good idea of how the game plays, but you're going to be wandering around the board in Victorian England, having events and things happen to you as you wander, while collecting various flowers in the game. That's the high-level idea of what you're doing. A few other aspects, you'll have a roll card, you'll have different things like that, but basically wandering around, collecting flowers, fulfilling your goals, going on expeditions, funding those expeditions, having events happen along the way. That's the basic game of Botany. There's already expansions at play over here, so you get the expansions bundle over here, the Perilous Perfumes and the Tantalizing Trees expansions you can add into them. Those are going to be $40 for the base pledge over here, the VIP special. You can also pay $55 for the Kickstarter special, which will give you the exclusive Regal Roses mini expansion and all applicable stretch goals, and $75 for the expansions before we start diving into double copies of different things, double printings, double base games, double sets, all of that as you go through this. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Like I said already, it does remind me of Dog Park. This is the kind of game that is hard to know. This kind of came out of nowhere for me. This is a game that I didn't hear a thing about, was not on any list or radar or anything, and did 3,000 backers and $200,000 because it did a theme well, it captured an audience, and it did so with something, it just had an appeal to it that worked in a way that was very reminiscent, very similar to the Dog Park campaign. Now, I cannot say whether this will hold its value or not. It's a little too hard to say on this one. It's not a perfect prediction in any way, but it does, again, like I said, remind me of Dog Park, which did do fine holding its value over on the secondhand market. That may well hold true for Botany, but again, that's definitely more in the risk category. Unclear. Maybe you can get it retail, maybe you can get it cheaper. It's very hard to say when you have something that's this is a new creator. They don't have an established, template of what they're doing. It's a very unique situation. The closest thing it makes me feel like is Dog Park. So I'd say there's a decent chance it'll hold its value, but definitely not a guarantee in any way, shape, or form. It's a little less formulaic compared to the standard things I'm used to seeing on crowdfunding. Moving on, we have Cities of Venus over here. Cities of Venus, a board game where players establish floating cities in the clouds of Venus before contact is lost with Earth. 685 backers, $55,000 to raise so far. This is from Tin Robot Games, who have done a bunch of games. I believe this is their largest one yet, I think, just in terms of little price point and size and all that stuff. But Cities of Venus is going to have a degree of asymmetric play, as players are trying to build out their tableau while dealing with a common card row in the middle where they can gather these cards and upgrades and put them into their board. A bunch of other things going on as far as the maintenance of growing your population, depleting your shields, all of that stuff. Generally speaking, this is a tableau building game that has kind of minor aspects of Splendor, but not really, I guess. Generally focus on the tableau building with these quad layer boards. I don't know why they're quad layered. I mean, I understand why they're 3 layers. I don't know why they're quad, but they are what they are. But either way, This game is going to have you gathering cards in those center row. Like I said already, lots of simultaneous plays to speed up the game as far as the game moves on. And simultaneous play is not the same as real time, just for clarity's sake. Sometimes I say that and people distinguish the two. Simultaneous just means you get to do things simultaneously, which stops the game from slowing down to a slog when you don't need it to slow down to a slog. This over here on the crowdfunding is going to be the deluxe version of the game. It's going to run you $82 for the game, which is one of the harder selling points over here. In general, this is a game that looks good, looks fun. I am compelled by the game system, but also doesn't look like an $80 game. This is a deluxe version. There will likely be a retail version, but it will not have all the extras and upgrades, and I don't know the price point on it, which brings me to the whole should you back it aspect, which frankly, I'm not certain. Kind of the same situation, well, not the same net result as Botany, but for a different reason. In this case, the problem we have is that the fact that the deluxe version is $82, but I'm not sure what the retail version will look like or what it will price at, which does make any comparison kind of hard to say for sure. The game looks fun. I like the look of the game. The box actually doesn't pull me in, but actually looking into more of the mechanics of how it plays, it does look more interesting. Lots of upgrading, which is definitely my jam. Simultaneous play could work either direction, but overall the game looks fun, but the $82 price point is scaring myself and likely a bunch of people off as well. This is one of the things I've talked about, which is when you have a game priced, that's before we talk about shipping, but when you have a game that's going to be priced at $7,200 for a game, it should look like a $7,200 game, and I don't think that's the case with City of Venus. I'm not getting that impression that it's worth the price tag on the components. That is definitely a personal perception to a degree, but also with 600 backers, it's being shared to a certain extent by the audience, and that likely does carry over to the secondhand market as well. Those questions, crying child in the background, those questions tend to translate from Kickstarter over to the secondhand market as well. So definitely a risk in this one, and I'd say if you do want the game and you don't want to spend $80, wait for retail and get yourself a retail copy that will have less posh, less pristine, all that stuff, but will be more affordable on your wallet. Moving on, we have Wishland, Dreams for America, and I say moving on, but this is actually the last campaign for today. The last campaign before we move on to picks of the week, as well as upcoming crowdfunding campaigns, but we have Wishland, Dreams from America, 721 backers, $42,000 raised so far. This is Wishland, a game that's been out of print from what I can see for a bit, but from Carlos Mitchell over here, this is the, I could be pronouncing that last name wrong, I apologize, but this is a reprint and 3rd edition and expansions for Wishland, a theme park amusement park. I recently reviewed this on my channel, you can check that out. Tom, a year ago, did a full, top 10, Tom Vasselman with Ice Tower did a top 10 theme park games, and he put this as his #1 game, so you can check that out as well. But overall, Wishland is a very pretty set collection amusement park game. Players are going to be gathering sets of cards using a worker placement system, which you either place workers or recall workers, but you have to place more workers to spots the players already have workers at. So you can place out you can place out 5 workers in a single moment just to get what you need out of something, but that means your economy of placing versus recalling is going to be off. Plus you have to pay for the cards as well. So you're basically going to the various spots on the board. This is the 3rd edition. You're going to have a few new upgrades as far as the expansion and the 3rd edition with it adds. You have an additional card row. You're going to have additional player. You're going to have a whole bunch more meeples. So the basic game system is set collection with a bunch of cards, placing workers, again, placing and recalling workers to gather sets of cards that all have different ways they score. You can check out my full review for more coverage on that, but that is the basic idea of Wishland, and this has, again, 3rd edition, upgrade kit, metal coins, and an expansion, all of that mixed together over here with a few ways to get it. You can go ahead and spend €20 over here, $21 for the Wishland Dreams for America expansion. You can get the base game plus Dreams for America for $66. You can get the all-in for $88, and I believe there's also an upgrade kit, although I'm not seeing it as a pledge level, so I'm not entirely sure. I could have sworn there's an upgrade kit, but I'm not entirely sure where or how to get your hands on it. But there we go, 3rd edition, base game upgrade pack. Backers who pledge €19 more for the Dreams, and his pledge does not include okay, cool. So if you back the expansion and not the new 3rd edition, you will get the free upgrade kit already, which is really not bad. That's a good reason to, wow, that's pretty good. I missed that the first time around. So for €21, it looks like you're going to get the upgrade kit as well if you don't back the 3rd edition game as well. So that's cool. That's going to be Wishland Dreams for America. As far as should you back it, should you not, all that stuff. The first thing is to note is this game is out of print and hard to get your hands on, which means I've seen prices for the game, and this is for the 2nd edition, I've seen prices for the game from anywhere from $45 all the way up to $150 to get your hands on the game because it's currently out of print and hard to get your hands on the game. But that does mean that the price point over here of $45 or so for the game is $66 when you get the expansion already, so you're looking at around $45 plus the expansion, plus shipping and all that, while getting the various extras. I think it's overall a decent price point. I'm not confident you'll be able to sell it to get your money back if it's not for you. You may take a small hit on it. It depends on print run, depends on the on-demand. This is a well-liked game, but not a loved game, and so I think it'll do fine, but not amazing. But I would say that if you're interested in this, Kickstarter does seem to be a good opportunity to get your hands on the game at a relatively fair price point while getting all the new stuff, so I'd say it's worth going for if you wanted to get your hands on the game. That is going to be everything over here, which brings us to the picks of the week. Picks of the week, as usual, I do 2 picks of the week. I do a value pick of the week, the game that I think will most likely hold its value, and a game that and the personal interest pick of the week, the game that I am most personally interested in. And this week, weirdly enough, they overlap, but that's not weirdly enough. We'll talk about it. So basically, the Hunters A.D. is both for me this week, although I usually separate when I have both. This one is the campaign that I think is most likely to hold its value. The original Hunters A.D. did just fine holding its value, and again, the fact that it's not going to retail, the fact that it's going to be a a miniatures-based campaign experience that already has an audience, I think this one is the safest value pick of the week. It's also my personal interest pick to a degree, despite the fact that I'm getting rid of the Hunters 2114. Between the art, the theme, what looks like the changes, I do think this is a more polished version of the system, and I already like the system with some critiques, and I'm intrigued despite myself. That said, I am going to pick something else for my personal interest pick of the week, and that's going to be Clank Legacy. Clank Legacy over here, this is one that, again, kind of a similar situation as the Hunters, where I didn't love the original Clank Legacy. But that said, so many people do love it, and it's so highly rated that I've been meaning to dive back into the original Clank Legacy anyway, because I want to give it a shot. I want to see if it's a game system that I enjoy enough. I've played it, but I don't know. I want to try it again, and Clank Legacy 2 definitely means it's another reason to try it again. I like Legacy games in general, and I want to see what happened and try this one again and see if it's me, so I am interested despite myself. So both of my picks of the week are picks that I kind of moved on from the first one, and still am interested in the second one despite myself. Which brings us to the games coming up next week. Next week we have a few things coming up, but as usual, I highlight 1 or 2 of them. We have Raising Robots coming to you from Navu Games. This is going to be an adorable but very thinky, very strategic game of different card rows and tableau building. Think Wingspan, think Earth, that kind of system layered on top of a robot building game. Adorable art, incredible, very different theme compared to what you usually expect, but a lot of crunchiness to the actual gameplay. And then we have Leviathan Wilds, which I actually haven't played this since the changes. They made a bunch of changes to the game since I last covered it, but Leviathan Wilds, a cooperative game, a cooperative or solo game of trying to climb up these giant leviathans and take down the crystals. Looks like they've massively updated some art, some different components and stuff. I am very intrigued. I already liked the game the first time round, and I'm intrigued to see what they did to change it up and how much different, better, or whatever changes there are when this launches next week. And with that, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you as always. I'll see you tomorrow, and as always, I hope you have a good one. I never really say I see you tomorrow. Hope you have a good one. That's one of those 2 things. What is the scariest plant in the forest? Bamboo!